Hey, welcome to my booth. I'm Jay, and you saw the title, you saw the thumbnail. I'm going to show you how to set up Reaper, or at least the way I set up Reaper. So whether you're a voiceover artist, audiobook narrator like me, just want to get into audio, or just want to see how I do it, that's what we're doing today. First things first, you're going to want to pop over to Reaper's website, download the software if you haven't already. I'm not affiliated in any way. It's actually, I believe, open source, but it's a 60-day free trial, last time I checked at least. So no harm, no foul. Give it a shot. If you like it, it's a great software and you're off to the races. If not, no harm, no foul. It's $65, I believe, after the trial for a lifetime license up until you make $20K a year or more using it. Hopefully that's sooner rather than later for you. And at that point, it's $225 as of when I was buying it, at least. So go do that. Meet me back here. For those of us hanging around, if you like this stuff and you find it helpful, you can help me out by clicking the YouTube buttons. And a quick shout out to Mr. Mike Delgadio, Booth Junkie. I followed his initial tutorial many years ago on how to set up Reaper, and it was really instrumental in getting me off the ground. And so I just wanted to show my way here. So if you open Reaper, yours probably looks a little different than mine does. So I'm going to show you how to get from wherever you are to getting your windows to look exactly like what we've got going on here. The first thing we're going to do is just close everything that's going on. Down here at the bottom, these little windows have X's. We'll just click those and close these up. Boom. And then this guy right here is called the transport. We're going to right-click on that, uncheck whatever is checked here, dock transport and main window, uncheck it, pulls it up into this little floating window here. I'm just going to close that, and the last thing is this track here. Right-click, go down to Remove Track, and now Reaper is a blank slate, ready for us to paint upon with our dulcet tones. The only two things that I have left are my toolbar up here in the top left and my timeline. Your timeline may be displaying different numbers than mine. Don't sweat it. Just right-click on the timeline, and down here at the bottom, it shows you all these different ways that you can display or have the timeline out. I prefer minutes and seconds, so give that a click. So now we're going to get everything that we just closed back. Where did it go? Up here in the top left, View is the first thing we'll click. And it gives us access to a bunch of different windows here. So I would highly recommend clicking through these as you're playing around in Reaper and learning it, seeing which ones you like, which ones you find helpful. Some of these are more geared towards music and stuff like that, but some can be really helpful. I'm just going to show you the ones that I like. The first is the transport. We'll give that a click. And this, if any of them open in a floating window like this, you guessed it, right-click. And down here at the bottom, it shows you a bunch of different options where you can decide to make this live. I'm going to choose Dock Transport in main window, and it snaps to the bottom there. Back up to View. The next window that I like is the Media Explorer. This window is basically the Finder application in Windows, or in Macintosh and the equivalent in Windows, but just nested into Reaper. And the benefit of having the Media Explorer over just the Finder window to drag files into your projects, you'll see here I've got a bunch of different songs that I use in demos or client projects here and there. And if I click on one of them, it starts playing within Reaper, and I can select portions of it to pull into my project as I wish. I can also change the volume. I can change. It just gives me a lot more control over what I'm pulling in and not, instead of working in whole files, which can be really valuable. So that's why I like the Media Explorer. Back up to View. The next is the Region Marker Manager. Bam. I have another video on this channel going into more depth about why this window is so valuable to me and my workflow, particularly in audiobook narration. So I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on how this works, how to use it in this video, both for the sake of time and efficiency. But this is the reason why I like Reaper so darn much, hands down. So go check out that window. It saves me tons of time and makes my life really, really easy. Cannot recommend this thing enough. Back up to View, we're going to open the FX browser. This gives us access to all of the different plugins that we have either natively, that I bought somewhere, that came with something. And if you don't know what a plugin is, these are all different sort of tools that are at our disposal to either clean up or improve the way something sounds, which is more so what we do in voiceover or audiobooks, or in an extreme case, for at least performance and voice acting, if I wanted to, say, take my voice and make it like a robot voice, I could use a lot of these to achieve that goal. Again, I've got other videos going into more depth on this channel about how to use them and which ones and, that whole kit and caboodle. So check those out if you want more information about those. Back up to View. The mixer is the last thing that we're going to open from this window. Bam. The mixer is valuable because it shows us all of these meters, both for our master track, which is the compiling of all of the tracks in our project, as well as any individual tracks that we have. It gives us a lot of information that's really, really valuable. At least I've found it so. You'll notice we don't have any tracks right now. So we're going to go up to this main window here. And on the far left side, this is kind of where the track headers live. Right-click on that, and it gives you a bunch of different options to insert stuff. We're going to insert a new track. Ta-da! We're back where we started, and everything is open that at least I prefer to have open. Now, a couple of things before I move on. One, for those with astute eyes, keen senses, you may have noticed as we've been clicking on all these menus, these little symbols to the right of some of the menus and some of the things that we've been clicking. These are the hotkeys for certain actions. So I highly encourage, as you're going through Reaper, as you're learning it, as you're fiddling around, take note of the things that both have hotkeys assigned to them, like insert new track here, as well as the things that you're clicking on a lot that either have a hotkey or maybe don't. And the reason why learning hotkeys saves you tons of time and makes you way faster, way more efficient, which as you move into your career as an audiobook narrator, voiceover artist, or audio professional is really valuable, cannot be understated. So take the time to learn the hotkeys. So the other thing, if you want to change the way that things are laid out, this is the way I like it, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily do. One of the beautiful things about Reaper is how incredibly customizable it is. I can change the size of things, the dimensions. I can also change where things live. So if I want, say, this mixer to be somewhere else, I can click on this tab here down at the bottom that says Mixer and just click and drag that. And you'll notice if I pull it all the way to the side, the entire right-hand side of my window lights up with a light gray. If I let go, boom, my mixer snaps to that position. If I want it to go back, I can just click the tab again and pull it to where it highlights a different region. So feel free to change things around as you wish, as you like, and get things set up that way, or the way you want them to be. The last thing that we can adjust is the toolbar before we save all of this as a preset. And the only thing that I really use in my toolbar is this little radar pinging thing. This is the ripple editing toggle button. If that sounds like a bunch of nonsense, I'm going to break it down in a moment to explain what it is, but I find this really valuable. And so if there are things that you want in your toolbar, again, like hotkeys that you're accessing a fair amount, the way to change or adjust things there is to, you guessed it, right-click on your toolbar, customize toolbar, and this little window pops up. If your toolbar isn't showing up, you can go up to View, and right here is the toolbar Docker, and that'll pull open this little window, and you can drop it in there. But again, right-click, customize toolbar. And the button that I use a lot is the Cycle Ripple Editing mode. Now, REAPER can be overwhelming at times, and a lot or often when I was starting out, I would open a window and just get blown away, confused, overwhelmed, scared, and I would just shut down. This next window is one of those. Add all of these different things. When I first opened this, I panicked and just shut down, and it got scary really quick. Take it from me, these windows, yes, can be scary and overwhelming at first. However, there are two things to remember about them. One, it becomes demystified very, very quickly. Some of these things you will never have to use. I lost my light. Some of these things you'll never have to use. That light's probably going to die again. And some of them you may find yourself using a lot. And as you use things more, you become more accustomed to what they mean. The other thing to remember is one of the great things about REAPER specifically. A lot of programs have this, but it's one of the things that I'm very fond of with REAPER. The sheer number of all of these different options just means that as you get more proficient, as you become more professional, you get to be very, very specific about exactly what you want to do. So if you find yourself getting overwhelmed, just remember that this is where you're going and you don't have to understand it right now. And so if you find yourself at any point in REAPER feeling that way, know that I was there as well, and it goes away with time. So because we were talking a fair bit, let's just get back to where we were. Here's the toolbar, right-click, Customize Toolbar. It opens this window. We're going to add the Cycle Ripple Editing mode because I find it very, very valuable personally, and I think you will too. We're going to click Add. This window pops up. In the filter, we'll just type Ripple, and it already becomes much more manageable. The one we want is Cycle Ripple Editing mode. Now, this window can be valuable. It's the Actions window. You can add hotkeys for yourself down here, add, and you can just punch in a specific hotkey. You can see them also here. So that can be valuable for you to save time as well. And then to add it to our toolbar, we'll select the thing we want and then click Select. And it pops up in our toolbar right there. Then we'll just close this. And when you're ready to finish the changes, just click Apply. Because I don't want two of the same button, I'm going to remove that one and click Apply there. And now your toolbar should be ready to go. Great. So before we talk about anything else, let's just make sure that we've saved our work so far. And we're going to do that by making a project template. We'll go up to File, Project Template, Save Project as Template. This little window will open, and we'll just save this as default. And when you click Save, I already have a default because I've been doing this for a while. But if you want to update it ever, or if you make some changes, you can replace it and it will become the new default folder. There goes my light again, but we're not going to worry about it. So we can just click Replace or just leave it. And then that will be saved as a project template. So if you ever want to recall that again, you can go to Project Templates, and here we have the default. And if we want to make sure that this is what REAPER looks like every single time we open it, here's how we do it. We're going to go up to REAPER, go down to Settings, Project, click on the project here, When creating new projects, use the following project file as a template. We're going to click Browse. It'll take us to this window and just click on Default, Open, and you're ready to go. Click Apply, and it will save that. Now, every time we open Reaper, it'll look like what we've just done. While we're in Preferences here, we're going to set up a couple other things just to make sure that our work is saved and that files are going where we want them to go. This is important for file management and things like that. So under General, we're going to go to Paths. And this is where we can make sure that all of our files are going where we want them to. Default path to save new projects. You can put this anywhere you want, but because I personally find that Reaper projects take up a lot of space, and I want to make sure that I've archived them, so I save them to my native Dropbox folder, which saves in my computer's desktop, and then I can offload files as I go. So I'm going to do this in my Dropbox, and I want to do a new folder. We'll call this just Reaper Projects. And I already have this saved, but you'll just click Create, and it'll create a file and open it to that. And then when you click Open, it will save that path for you there. The next is the render path. So when you finish recording something and you want to send it out of Reaper into an MP3 or some other audio file, this is where those files will end up as a default. You can choose this individually at the rendering stage in Reaper as well, but this is by default. So we'll click Browse. We'll find our Reaper Projects folder, go into that, just to keep everything neat and tidy, new folder, Renders, and Create. It will open your Renders folder, and then you'll just click Open, and there it is. So Reaper Projects into Renders. The next thing, this bottom one right below it, you don't really need to worry about too much. And then store all peak caches in alternate path. These help you to open your Reaper projects more quickly. It saves a cache of like the waveforms, how they look, and all that stuff. So this is something that you can clear out occasionally. And whenever you open a new project, it just may take a little bit longer. But this can be helpful if you want to be able to open things more quickly. So we'll set this up, browse, and we'll just do the same thing. We'll go to the Reaper Projects, new folder, Repeaks. Create that, and when you click Open, it will save there. Then we'll just click Apply to make sure that these save. And then the last thing that we'll do before I talk you through a couple other things within Reaper, just to get you on the right track, we're going to set up your backups. I can't remember which of these come natively selected, so just take your time to click the things that I've clicked here. And that would probably be the easiest way to set it up. Again, I can't remember what the defaults are. But auto-saved backups, you can put these three sections here, put it to 15 to 30, and you'd never want to lose your work if your computer crashes, if Reaper glitches, if the power goes out, if something happens. It's just a nightmare scenario if you lose your project. So having backups has saved my butt more times than I would like to admit. So just make sure that you've got a healthy number here just to be safe. And then this track here, it's the same thing that we did with the others. We'll click Browse, and we'll go to Reaper Projects again, new folder, Backups. We'll create that, and it will save there. Then we'll just click Apply to make sure that everything changes. And the last thing to change here is the auto save interval. Some folks like this at 1 minute versus, 3 or 5 minutes, just to make sure that they're not losing as little work as possible as they go. Set this for wherever you're comfortable. Me personally, I'm fine going back 3 minutes for like an audiobook or something like that, if in a worst case scenario. And this, for me, just helped me to reduce the number of backups that were cycling through and repeating, and it ended up inflating my project file size. But anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes, I think, would be great. And I select when not recording just to keep things easy. So whenever I've stopped recording, after 3 minutes pass, it will save a backup for me. We'll click Apply, and that's all we need to do now. Down here in your audio device, this is where you'll select your interface or your microphone. So assuming you've got an audio interface plugged into your computer and you've gone through your computer settings to make sure that everything's up and ready to go, this is where you'll select that. So the audio Thunderbolt is mine here. The sample rate, these are things that can be a little bit more complicated, but I just set it at 48,000 because rarely do people record projects that are greater than that. So if that's a thing that they need adjusted, you can do that. So just set this for 48 and click Apply. That's all we need to touch in this so far. So again, the paths, this is where we set that up. Backups, this is where we can change that. Project, this is where we set up our template to be the thing that opens. And then device, this is how we make sure that our audio is coming in. So the last couple things that I'm going to talk you through here are the different buttons and knobs in our track settings here. This button here is the record armed button. You can toggle through to change what it is recording. Off is, obviously this won't record if I try to. If this is on, it will record when I have this on. Now it will record into this track. Or I can right click on this, automatic record arm when track selected. This means if I have multiple tracks, it will record wherever I have my playhead set. So right now I'm in this second track, right now I'm here. If I select them both, then it will record into them both. So da 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 da. And if I select here, it will only record in this one. Back up here, it will only record in this one. So I like to do that. Automatic record arm. Again, that's right click, automatic record. This M button is mute. It will turn off the audio in this section. So if I'm playing, it won't play this track. The button right next to it is solo, meaning it will only play the tracks that I've selected solo. So right now, this is the only track that will play. And this other one is, it looks darker gray right now, meaning that it's off or won't play. And if I solo this second track as well, you'll notice that that lights up again. So it will now play both this track and this track. We'll take off the solo. This green button is the effects. So all of the plugins that I was talking about earlier in our FX browser, if I want to add those to a track, you can see them down here in my mixer as well. They're up towards the top here. And all the buttons that I'm talking about are also here. But if I want to add effects, I can either click and drag them to a track like this, or I can click on the FX. It will show me the track effects that are on, and I can click and drag things there as I wish. Within this effects window, if a check mark is next to a plugin, it means that it's on. If there's no check mark, it means that it's bypassed, meaning it won't take effect when the audio is either played or when the audio is rendered out into an external file like an MP3 or a WAV file or something else. A question that a lot of people have is, when do effects become applied to our audio? One of the things that's great about Reaper is it will only apply the effects to the audio at the rendering stage. So when I start to export my files from Reaper into an MP3 or a WAV file, assuming that the effect is, or plugin is checked on, it will apply to my audio at that point. If that doesn't make sense, I have other videos on this channel talking about specifically the rendering stage coming out of Reaper. Now, way back, you'll remember that I talked a lot about this ripple editor. I'm just going to briefly walk through what this is and how it's helpful in a couple of different ways. So ripple editing means that it will, any changes that I make in my project, ripple editing dictates how it will interact, the changes that I make, with all of the other things past that. The editing effect will ripple down through my project. Right now, I've got the ripple editing off, meaning no ripple editing will take place. I can change and adjust things, and all of the adjustments that I make will only affect the specific things that I'm interacting with and nothing else. If I click this once, you'll notice that the center two little blips are highlighted and the others are still left blank, as it were. This is the track ripple edit setting, meaning it will ripple and affect down a track rather than across the whole project. To demonstrate, I've got this on. It will ripple down one track. So if I select this, it will move everything in accordance on this track, but everything else in the project and these other ones isn't affected. Then if I select this, it will move everything rippling from this point on in the audio. And down we go. Same thing down here. If I say split this, it will move these and not, but the rest of the audio isn't affected. Now, if I click it again on the third setting, it lights all the way up. This will affect everything across the whole project. So if I select this, it's not only going to change in the track, but all of the other audio as well. And the ripple editing cascades in that way. And this is all dictated by where the audio starts. So this file starts here. You notice it doesn't intersect with anything. So it's just going to change from this point back. But if I overlap it with something right here, it's now overlapping these two, but it doesn't go past their starting point. That's right. So if it interacts with the starting point of the audio, right now, this is further ahead than this. It changes. It becomes intuitive when you start working with it. But the reason why this is so valuable is particularly when I'm editing with markers or regions. I have a video talking specifically about markers and regions and how to use the region marker manager in depth again. So go check that out for more discussion on this. But the reason why it's very important for me to set this up with you initially, this toggle, is it changes the region markers and manager, or the regions and markers as well. So in audiobooks, if, say, I have to change or delete some audio in the middle of a chapter, I don't want the timing of everything past that to shift in relation to my regions and markers. So right now, if I'm moving this around, you'll notice that my region changes along with it. If I delete this, the region and marker shift as well. But if I turn this off, the region and marker don't move, which can be really problematic and cause a lot of problems if you're making a lot of changes and edits in an audiobook, even by fractions of a second. It will change things down the line in a big way. So that's why it's really important to have on there. Again, check the other video out if you want more on that. Well, that should have you at least to a good starting point. If you feel like I missed something, if you still have questions, if you have a specific thing that you're curious about, let me know. And I'd be happy to make another one of these to help you get further on your feet with Reaper and recording something cool. Again, a thank you to Mike Delgadio and Booth Junkie for getting me started on Reaper, and Kenny Joya as well. I can't remember what his channel is, but I'll do my best to link it down below. But he's a big Reaper proponent, really great educational videos on how to use different aspects of Reaper there as well. So check both of those guys out. They've got good information too. Anyway, Until the next one of these, be well, and I'll see you there. Toodles.